Hi, I'm Morgan DeBond, and welcome to the Work Smart podcast. Every week, we'll be exploring a different lesson or idea related to the challenges faced by entrepreneurs and business people. We'll be talking with everyone from top tech entrepreneurs to small business owners to give you the insight you need to make your business thrive. This podcast is here to help you work smarter, not harder. Thank you so much for going on this journey with me. In today's episode, I'm so excited. We are talking to a special advisor of mine. She has been with me since day one of Blavity. We'll be talking to my good friend, Jackie, and she is an advisor for recruiting talent. For those of you who are thinking about how do you make your first employee, what does it look like to start the hiring process? What does it mean to create and review people's resumes, or even to write a job description? Jackie is a talent advisor currently for Silk & Sonder, a former senior recruiter at Envision, and she used to lead recruitment for Blavity way back in the day when I needed all the help hiring our first team. Jackie launched her own consulting business, JVR Consulting, in 2016, and she loves to help startups and small businesses learn how to grow and scale their organizations. So in this episode, we'll be diving into WorkSmart's second pillar, which is efficient team growth. This is something that I talk about all the time in the program. And really, at the end of the day, I want you to feel comfortable knowing when you should bring someone onto your team. And if you have folks on your team, making sure that you can grow and scale in an efficient way. So Jackie and I will break it all down today. And after Jackie and I do a few kind of overview and ground setting questions, you'll be joined with our WorkSmart students. So you'll hear some live questions from current WorkSmart CEOs so that you can get an inside look at how they're thinking about hiring and growing from their team. So make sure you got your notebook ready, and here we go. All right, Jackie, thank you so much for joining me today. So let's talk a little bit about your journey as a recruiter, and just tell me in simple, plain language what it means to be a recruiter.
Sure. I don't think many people set out to be recruiters. It's something that a lot of times just happens. I happen to have been living in San Francisco, and I was working at an ad agency, and I was assisting someone as an assistant, like an EA, and they happened to be a director of creative talent. And I just thought their job was so cool. Honestly, I just thought it was really amazing to be able to meet people and to talk to people and understand who they are, their professional skills, and what they bring to the table and how it could make the business better. And so I was like, purely, I really just wanted to meet people and talk to interesting and fascinating people, because that's at the core of who I am. Is, I think, what I love is to meet people and hear their stories and understand them. And I thought it was really cool that I could get paid to do that.
Right?
Yeah, basically. So, and you could probably take that in a couple different avenues, but I decided to become a recruiter. And so I kind of switched gears and got into recruiting, and never looked, well, I have looked back, but this has been the journey, and it's been a lot of fun. It's hard work. It is a full-time job, and it helps so many different organizations. I mean, you need to hire people for any type and any kind of business. So I truly do believe recruiting is an essential part of building a business, no matter what kind of business it is, whether it's retail, tech, it could be anything. It's so important to have good people working for you.
Yeah, it's super important. I want to talk about those small businesses and startups that you've advised where it's the founder making their first hire. I remember those days for me. I was never really shy about hiring. I knew that I needed to hire and that was going to be a part of my responsibility if I wanted to scale and grow and have the impact that I wanted to have. I was very naive about what someone else's capability was. I remember us having a variety of conversations where you were like, that's three people's jobs. Like, you're asking one person to do something that it should be three separate jobs. Like, it's going to be hard to find someone to do that, all of these things, or you're gonna have to pay more, which I was like, I'm not paying these people this much money. I don't even pay myself. So like, what are the common things that you see for that founder CEO, hardest working employee in the room making a decision to hire someone else?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I remember that. Fun times.
I was not having it.
No, you are not.
I was like, how
I
much? No.
Yeah, that was really funny. I think back to those times often, actually, because we were having so much fun, but it was such hard work, and it was so interesting to be at that point in Blavity's history and time, and trying to build what you have today, right? Laying that foundation. I find the same things that you and I faced with early stage startup founders or early stage small business founders, unrealistic expectations, because oftentimes when you are an entrepreneur, you have to wear so many different hats. I do think early founding team members probably should wear multiple hats, but also need to have a specialty so that they can do what they do well, so that at the end of the day, you as a founder can do what you do well, and that's running the business, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times when I'm talking to founders, I say, who do we need to get into the door today over the next 30, 60, 90 days to make sure that you are successful?
I love that question. Work Smarters, I hope you wrote that down because that is such a gem. I don't think I realized that until maybe year 2 or 3 of the business because I was so enamored with where we were going. So I used to hire for like the future, and then that person couldn't do the work on day one.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would be frustrated. And
Yeah.
then I realized, oh, it was me. Like I made the wrong hire. It's not them. It's me. What are some other things that you've seen or advice that you can give someone who's trying to figure out which role do I hire for?
Yeah, I think you hire for what you're not good at. So do what you do best and hire someone to do the things that you don't do well. Hire for, it depends on your business, but I think ambiguity. Someone that you can throw anything at and they can figure it out, even if they have to ask you 10 questions, like they'll figure it out. I think someone who has grit and really wants to be a part of this. Not everyone is a small business or early stage person. Some people just are better at probably larger organizations. So,
Mm,
and that's something to know. Like, sure, your business might, you want your business to be one of those Fortune 500 companies, and you want to poach someone from there, but can that person actually really come and do what you need to be done on the ground level? Do
mm.
they actually have that experience? I think that's something to think about. Also, depending on where you're coming from, where your strengths and your weaknesses lie, you have to hire to add to your team. I think those are some of the most important things to do, and also have a very clear vision. Like, what do you want? What do you need? And then going out there and finding that.
Where do you see people when it comes to like the hiring process and they're DIYing it? Where do they make mistakes? Where are opportunity areas that, a founder and owner of a business who's like, okay, I can't afford a recruiter, which we're going to talk about that in a second, but
Sure.
they're in their mind, they're like, I shouldn't get a recruiter. I don't even know any recruiters. I
Yeah.
need somebody who can come and help me with operations, who can run the day to day of my logistics, who can take over my accounting, who can be at the front desk so I can be in the back. How do they approach that?
I've seen it happen where you give basically all of those things you just listed to like one or two people, when again that should probably be like five different people, because the person who's managing your calendar can't always do marketing and operations and payroll, and no. So
Even
like
though you
that.
do, they probably can't. It's probably a bad idea,
Exactly.
you all.
Probably a bad idea. So again, like find those people who have the strengths that you do not have and give them those things that they're good at and let them be successful at it, so then you can go and be successful. So I think that is a major mistake people make. I mean, we had a good time working together and we were friends before, but I don't always think it's the best idea to like hire your friend Joe down the street to do something for you,
Mhm.
unless they're actually an expert in that and they can actually do it. If you need to grow and scale your company, like you need to grow and scale your company with someone who has the skills to do it. So those are some mistakes I've seen happen. DIY yourself. But any advice I can give to a founder is really think about what you need and what you want, write it down, be deliberate,
Mm-hmm.
you have to know. And if that means you are talking to your work smart, cohort, if it's talking to Morgan, if it's talking to an investor, if you have one, or an advisor about it, do that. Get some outside help or kind of just like
Mm-hmm.
thinking on it and then move forward. I think if you're doing it yourself in terms of recruiting, lean on your network, see who you can get introductions from. There's also a lot of technology out there now today, even like 5 years ago, that didn't exist, that will allow you to move so quick and so fast.
Let's talk about
Um,
that. Like what
yeah,
tools let's say someone's like, okay, Morgan, okay, Jackie,
yeah,
why are you calling me out right now? I hear you. So they're in their head right now, like, okay, tomorrow I am going to hire this operations person because I've got an e-commerce business and I'm fulfilling all the things myself in my apartment. And I'm
hmm,
going to hire someone to handle logistics and
yeah.
operations because we're getting so big. What do they do next? Like, walk me through what this woman should do.
Yeah. I think this person should sit down and write a job description so they know exactly what they need out of this person and what this person would potentially look like. They need to think about location. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we're living in a remote world right now. So, like, does this person need to live where you live, or can they live anywhere in the United States? Or do they have to be on Central Time or, West Coast, like whatever that might look like, right? So, figure that out. I would then figure out how much money do you have to pay them? Because that is very important. Is this a full-time job? Is this a part-time job? Is this a fellowship? Is this an internship? All those kind of things, all the kind of fun different things that we did. Those are,
They don't know this. So back in the day, because it was broke, I was broke, five broke, you guys. I had no money, and Blavity's money was my money, and my money was Blavity's money. So
Mhm.
I didn't have any money to give people. And so I created fellowship programs because I knew that people would be willing to work for experience if I gave them a very rich experience. And
Yep.
these were college students.
Yeah.
I definitely couldn't afford, you know, somebody who had 5 years experience or anything. So I had fellows and I used to run three fellowship programs at once for Blavity. I had a writer's fellowship program,
Mhm.
I had a video, and I had a marketing fellowship program.
Mhm.
And we would meet weekly and I would meet with them. I still had my day job at the time. I would meet with them at night, and it was like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I would have one of the fellows, we would meet, we would have like actual assignments, they would go through data. I mean, I tried to make it as valuable as possible, acknowledging that I couldn't pay them.
We did pay
And
them like stipends.
and then at the end, as I got closer, as like Blavity started, we didn't make any money, but I started to feel more comfortable that I was building something that was going to generate money, and I was willing to put more of my money
Mhm.
into it. I then started paying them like $500 a month or something like
Yeah.
that. But again, this was my money. Like, this was coming out my paycheck and going straight to them. I don't even think I had a bank account. We'll talk about commingling your funds later. Don't do it.
Don't do
Okay.
it.
Don't do it. It messes up your taxes. It's a whole mess. But I was doing that. And our first employees were fellows. So
Mhm.
Sankara, who's now a director at video at Blavity,
Mhm.
Marissa, who is head of digital products, Sabine, who is a designer extraordinaire and head of integrated marketing, Shane, who is a senior business
Mhm.
development manager. They were all fellows or interns, and they're still with me today. It's like
Yep.
absolutely one of the best joys of my life.
That was such a beautiful experience and such a wonderful thing that you're able to do. And if you as a startup founder are able to do that and you have the capacity, because that took a lot out of you to be able
Oh
to
my
do
gosh,
that.
it was so time consuming, but I all I had was time. I didn't have any money.
Yeah. So if you have the time to do something like that, you could totally build out a program, something similar. Maybe that's another conversation for another day. But if you have the time and you don't have the money, cool. If you have the money, I would probably suggest hiring someone with more experience so then you don't have to do so much of the hand holding that you had
Yes.
to do, right?
Yes.
And that comes to, I'm just thinking about, there's so many things that we can talk about on this topic, but I want to talk about and I want to mention, I know it's really scary It's really scary to make these hires.
Terrifying.
It's terrifying because, like, you're paying these people, it's their living, like, it's so much responsibility. And I know you felt a lot of that, Morgan, and you still do to this day. And, like, what if it doesn't work out? Like, what if this is not the right fit? Blah, 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 all those things. It's okay. It's part
Yeah.
of being a business owner. It's part of being a leader. It's part of being an entrepreneur that's scaling their business. And, like, you have to, if you really want to grow your business and you want to take it to the next level, you need people who can help you. So you have to hire people. And if it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't work out, you will learn a lesson
Mm-hmm.
and you will move on and you will hire someone
Well,
else.
she's avoiding the word you will fire them and you will move on. We're going to talk about firing in a few minutes, but I think that you just made a lot of good points. It is scary. You are doing it for the first time. It's really important to acknowledge the reality of that, and that is a common feeling of entrepreneurs. They feel worried. It's stressful. You're spending money. And my advice to people when they're thinking about that first hire, I think Jackie, you make a great point around hiring someone who is offsets your weaknesses and you knowing your strengths. And then the second thing I'd add to that is also making sure this person is either generating revenue for you or they're saving you time because you're going to use that time to generate revenue. That's like
Yes.
the safest way to make that hire because you know that time equals money or their time is money because they're a lead gen person. They're doing sales for you. They are taking all of your client calls and doing qualifications for you. Or you're hiring someone like a personal assistant or an executive assistant who is actually saving you time so you don't have to do some of the basic things that someone else could do. And you get to spend more time selling, making money. And then you can kind of do an equation that allows you to figure out how much you should be willing to pay that
Hmm.
person. In the beginning, it's really easy. Once you get to employee 15, 25, 75, it gets hard to decide, well, how much is this person really worth? How much are they really going to make the company? We have a metric that we track at Blavity called average revenue per employee. Many companies track that. There are certain benchmarks for average revenue per employee that you want to stay within when you are a certain different depending on the industry that you're in. So as you get bigger, there's kind of industry standards on benchmarks, but in the beginning, it's like the wild, wild west. You're kind of on your own. We'll talk about financial projections and how to build models in a different WorkSmart advisor episode. But at the beginning, the very simple way to think about it is what's going to help you get to the bag faster, you know?
So true. So true. Morgan, what do you think, like in those early days, what was your most essential hire or who? I will not say who, but what type of role was your most
I
essential hire?
am I'm very grateful that I hired salespeople early on.
Mhm.
I was not confident that I was going to be able to raise money consistently. When you enter the venture capital world and you decide to raise money for your company, you're oftentimes signing up to raise money forever. Like
Mhm.
it doesn't really end. You raise your pre-seed and then a year later you raise your seed. Within 9 months, you should be raising your series A. Within 9 months of that, you're raising your B. And then 9 months after
Yeah.
that, you're raising your C. It's a way of life. And I didn't feel confident that I was going to be able to fit the mold of Silicon Valley. And I didn't want my company to be dependent on my ability to fundraise and my ability to convince majority non-Black white men to grant me, the privilege of giving them equity in my company. I was not confident that that was going to happen. I'm grateful that I was able to defy the odds, but I did not want to Blavity to be dependent on it.
Hmm.
And to have that financial freedom, I focused on revenue very early on, and we hired sales people and sales leaders, and we focused on how to monetize. Once we got product market fit and actually had a huge audience, it was revenue. And I know at the time for the company culture, there was a time in which we got a lot of negative feedback. I got a lot of negative feedback that people felt like the culture is changing and you're focusing so much on money and revenue. And it just doesn't feel like why we started the company. And
Yeah.
I mean, I know you remember those because those
I
used to
remember
eat me
that.
alive. I used to be
Yeah.
so hurt. And at the same time, I honor those days because it set me up and it set the business up for financial stability to where we are now and freedom where I haven't had to go raise a Series B. And I could if I wanted to, but I don't have to. And that's
Yeah.
really important, I think, for any small business owner, any entrepreneur you sign up to be an entrepreneur partially to be in control of your destiny. And
Mm-hmm.
so you need to have the flexibility to make decisions because you want to, not because you have to. And part of that is having a strong team that's going to ride with you up and down, left and right, no matter where you need to go. So I think when you're hiring someone, really decide if this person's in it for the long haul and if you want them to be, or if it's a transactional relationship where they're just getting a job done.
Yeah.
And
And
knowing to
either is
separate that.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fine.
Either is okay. You know, you have those people on the team at Blavity, and I've seen them at so many different companies who are pretty much like what you would call lifers, and
Mhm.
other people who come for a season and they do what needs to be done and they leave, and that's okay. I think we've all potentially had jobs like that. And so, as a founder, as an entrepreneur, you should know that that's okay.
It's totally fine. So
Yeah.
what tools should someone use? They've got the job description. They've worked out their emotions in terms of making the hire. They've allocated the cash flow and the budget for this person. They
Yeah.
know it's going to be an investment, but there's going to be a return. They're
Mhm.
ready to go. What should they do next? What tools should they use? Should they post on Facebook, LinkedIn,
Yeah.
Instagram? What do you
Yeah.
suggest?
It depends on where your audience is. So, I mean, from a professional standpoint, like LinkedIn is like a standard these days, right? So, I'm assuming as an entrepreneur, you probably have a LinkedIn. If you don't, then you should probably get one. So, yes, posting it on LinkedIn. I think if you have a huge audience on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook. I don't really see, yeah, I do. I have seen jobs posted on Facebook, specifically Facebook groups. I know are super popular. There's a lot of like community building and a lot of opportunities there. Slack groups. I'm actually in a bunch of Slack groups that I really like and that I've like posted in, and it's like a whole new community of people that I'm not tapped into other places. Depending on how many people you're hiring, you could get an ATS, which is an applicant tracking system. I
Mhm.
think you all still are using the one I implemented at Blavity to this day.
We're using
Uh,
Jazz, which is
yeah,
founded by a Black founder. You know how I am about using Black
yeah,
people things. So
yeah.
Jazz HR.
Jazz HR, it's great. And it's pretty affordable too. I would say if you're hiring more than a handful of people, you probably need an ATS so that you can have people, apply and go into one place and it houses all of the information there. And I would have that connected to your website. And then you can also, like, when you're sending out and like posting on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever, it all links back to your ATS. So, like a Jazz.
So wait, we got to break that down. You just
Sure.
went fast, but I think this is so important.
Yeah.
So you have the job description. You
Yes.
need to have it on your website that you are hiring, that there's a
Hiring.
careers page, especially if you're trying to hire lifers, people that you want to stay
Yeah.
with you for a while. You're hiring a teammate, not someone that's
Yep.
transactional. Have it on the website. Also, you could manually post it across the internet, but
Mhm.
instead, there are systems that you can use that will automatically post it across and syndicate it across. It's just like when you apply for jobs. You can apply for a job and it goes
Yep.
everywhere. Same thing on the hiring side.
Yep.
So you can do that. It's so much more efficient. A lot of them have free trials,
Yep.
reduced costs for the first XY days. And honestly, you should be able to hire someone. So, you can be a
Yeah.
hustler if you need to be. What I love about my ATS is, and all of them, is that there's a lot of people who apply for jobs all the time. And you can see when somebody has been applying for 2-3 years trying to work with you. I actually always look at that. And to me, it's an indicator, wow, you really want to be
I want
here.
to
And
work
I
here.
like that. I like that about you. You are resilient. Okay. So I'm going to look at your application every time you apply. I might still say no, but you get a look, sir.
No, absolutely. I think, yeah, you're right. And then also you can see if someone, applied and like didn't do so well or what, I would leave notes in the ATS and for the future. Or maybe there was a huge amount of growth between one point and current time, and they could be the great hire, the next great hire for you. So it's always really, really great to keep all of that information in one place. It's just going to help you move quicker, which is what you want to do. So yeah, so once you have that all set up and you have it posted, you share out to your different communities, you ask the people in the WorkSmart group, to share, to send, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff, and you start your interviews. And this is when things get really fun. Do you want me to get into
I
that?
don't I don't know if we have time to get
I don't
into
think we have time.
interviews. I
Yeah.
think interviewing is a really incredibly difficult skill And I
It
think people
is.
assume they're good at it, and most people are not.
Are not. They're
And
terrible.
yeah, they're terrible. So I was terrible. I'd be like, I don't know what to ask you. Like, why do you want to work at Blavity? Like, so I think interviewing is probably an episode we'll have to have you come back to
Yeah.
for and really get into that. I want to just pause and ask from a not just the interviews, but prior to that, as you're reviewing resumes, are there any things that people should look for as they're reviewing resumes? How do you evaluate a resume?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the technical things, grammar. To
No,
me, so
I do not
I
take this for granted, Jackie.
I
Break it
know.
down.
I know.
How
It's
many
just
resumes have we looked at and been like, I don't know,
thousands,
sis.
hundreds, hundreds. Um, yeah, there's just so many funny things I've seen, and it also depends on your company culture, the culture you're trying to build. Our cover letter is important to you. Our resume is important to you. Are they LinkedIn's? Like, are you actually looking at people's resumes, or are you looking at their LinkedIn's? Does the resumes, say the same thing as the LinkedIn? There's so many things to consider, but basically, when you're looking at a resume, you want to understand, like, who is this person? Where are they located? Can I actually hire them? What have they done, and what they've done in the past, will that bring value to my company? That's really
Mm.
what you're looking for, like base level. Two, I would look at longevity. So like how long, if what their work history is. So have they only spent 6 months, 8 months, 9 months at places and just like hop to hop to hop different places? Is that something you're okay with? Do you want to take that risk? I'm sure lots of people have stories about that, but at most places, like if you just like skip to job to job to job, that's kind of like a red flag. So that's probably not someone you want to move forward with. Yeah, I think those are the major things. Does the person have more than a couple of years of experience? So can they actually come here, come to your company and have the impact that you need them to have? I think those are the really, really important things. And then everything else you can figure out in the interview process.
I love that. Okay, I want to get into just two more questions before we're joined for the live section of the interview. How do I know when I should hire a recruiter? Also, tell us how recruiters are paid. Because when I
Yeah.
saw my first recruiter contract, I was like, oh, word?
Yeah. So when should you hire a recruiter? If it's an executive or very senior role at your company, you should probably hire a recruiter or an executive recruiting firm or freelance recruiter who can do executive recruiting. If it's just like I have ops roles and sales and marketing and da da da, but you have a bunch of roles to fill, if you have more than 5 roles to fill at a time, I think you should hire a recruiter, whether that is bringing one in house or hiring a freelance recruiter or a recruiting agency. You should bring someone on staff. If you do not have the time to do it yourself, bring someone on staff to do it.
I think that's a great suggestion. I think I agree. Like 5 people at once that you want to bring in the next 30 to 90 days, especially
Oh,
if you're trying
yeah.
to do it in a short period of time, then you want a recruiter because they can run multiple searches at once. And
Yep.
oftentimes they come with a network already. They've been doing this for
Exactly.
years. So they know where to find people. They know who to call. They know, oh, so and so is at this company. I wonder if they're still
Yep.
working there. I didn't understand recruiters, and she didn't tell you the price, but it's 20%. They charge 20% typically of the first year's salary of the person that you're hiring if you hire a contract recruiter, which is why at some point a lot of companies wind up hiring people in-house because recruiters
because it gets
in-house
super expensive. Yeah.
crazy expensive.
I mean, it's good for me, but yeah, and even on top of that, there's like retainer fees, right? So it's like you're paying like a monthly or quarterly payment and then the 20% fee. You could bring in a recruiter, like a contract recruiter, it kind of like onto staff and have like pay them like an hourly rate. You could get to that. Or you could hire an agency on contingency and basically only pay them for what they hire for.
Right, but there's trade-offs to all of
Yeah,
that. You
there's
know,
trade-offs to all of it.
An in-house person is incredible because they know you, they know the company, they know they know the team, they know the business, they can answer all the questions. I mean, I remember you used to sell people on Blavity. Like you were the best recruiter because you knew me. So you could be like, she's phenomenal. They didn't know we were friends. She's phenomenal, and that was such a great introduction to the business for people and really sold them on making this incredibly risky leap to join a startup and leave whatever company they were already at. So having an in-house recruiter, if you're at that, like you're 10 employees and you're trying to go to 20 or 30, or you're at 20 and you're trying to go to 30, 40, 50, not to mention if you have contract roles. So if you have a high churn business where you have a lot of contract labor and you know that they're going to come in and out of the business, even if your total team number is low, you may want a recruiter because you have a frequency and you don't have time interviewing. If you could save money because all you do is interviews and you don't have the time to track people, and people are starting to have a bad experience working with you. Like we used to get, there was a time when we didn't have a recruiter. And so we would do this like, oh, we don't want to hire that person. We would forget to send them the decline letter, and you leave people hanging. And that's a horrible, horrible experience. You don't want that brand reputation. So I think recruiters are incredible because they allow us to actually, as owners, as founders, to be able to continue to do what we do well and what we love, and to have someone do the most important thing, which is pick the right people for the company. Like it is the most important part of growing a business, is who you work with and who works for you.
Yeah, I so agree with you. And I honestly think, again, like if you get to the point where you have 5+ roles at one time that you need to hire for very quickly, I think you should just bring someone in-house. Just bring them on. It doesn't have to be full-time. It could be someone, they could even be a contractor, but someone who can get to know you, get to know your business, and really know what you're looking for. You'll move so much more quickly than if you're trying to do it yourself.
All right. Well, we are joined now by our WorkSmart CEOs. So I have my good friend Jackie here with us tonight to answer your questions around hiring. So hopefully talking to Jackie tonight will give you a chance to learn how to get better at hiring so that you can move faster with your growth goals.
Hi, Jackie. So my name's Rose. I have a digital agency. I have a quick question. So I've hired for a couple roles in the past. I don't really have a process, but normally what I do is just go on Indeed, post something, and not really having a strategy behind the job description. So I am looking in the next few months. I'm looking to hire like some key roles, like a marketing manager to kind of take over a lot of my duties, and also a good designer. Okay, first of all, like, is Indeed the right platform to hire those kinds of people for like such a small company?
Indeed, such a interesting platform, in my opinion. Go ahead and post it there, but I really think, so you said you have a digital agency. Do you mean like a digital marketing, content, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, branding mostly, and some digital marketing and like marketing automation.
So the people that you have on staff right now, are they full-time or are they contractors?
I have one full-time, one part-time, and then I have some interns.
So something that I've seen, I don't know if it's something you thought about, but I think it's even something that we thought about at Blavity. You could totally create a community of freelancers, and you just pull from there when someone has the skills or the opening to do what you need them to do. And then you cultivate that community, and you can always pull from it. And it's based on location, it's based on skill, it's based on needs of the client. And so that is like a super easy way for you to recruit and also just keep people warm,
We did that. It was the Creator Society. It was a Slack group, and it was beautiful because people were able to meet each other. And so we had photographers, designers, influencers, Instagrammers, YouTubers, videographers, and they loved it. In fact, I get messages all the time like, why did you stop the Creative Society? And I'm like, we don't have time. But in the early days, it was beautiful. And I think, Jackie, you make a good point, keeping people warm, which means you keep them in the loop, you check in, you ask them what they're working on, you just make sure that they know that you care. It's a really important recruiting and nurturing tool for your pipeline.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yes. So I think that's a really, really great way of doing things. And you don't even have like Morgan was like pulling out the stops for this community. You don't even have to do that much. It would just be like hosting a call once a month and just like a few things to keep them warm, but it could be really, really great for your agency. I do think you should be posting on LinkedIn. I think you should be posting, I mentioned this earlier when we were talking, Facebook groups. There are lots of like groups of like creatives and freelancers and digital marketing and content creators and like there's all kinds of Facebook groups that live online that you can become a part of. There's actually a Slack community called Where All the Black Designers. So if you want to hire a Black designer, like you go in there, post. But I first would have a job description ready to go, create a template and just use that template to modify and edit for what exactly you're looking for.
Got it. Wow,
Yeah.
that is super helpful. And in terms of what, like trying to decipher the qualities of that person, what do you recommend that, is it like soul searching? Is it like what is it exactly that I need to do to get that right?
I guess you could call it soul searching, but like, what do you need in this person to be successful, right? So what does a business need? What are you good at? And then what are you not so great at that you need someone to do? I'm assuming like you have clients, right? So like think about what your clients need for right now, and also, you know, a little bit further down, like a quarter or two from now, what's the client going to need, so you can anticipate needs so that you can fill those needs when that happens.
Rose, you can go back to your operating task. What are your marketing operating tasks that you're currently doing, and bundle those tasks into your role and responsibilities?
Yeah, that's super helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. Who's next?
Go. I am Ayana. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist in Georgia. I recently hired, I already had an assistant who does my my billing and stuff for insurance, in terms of like kind of payments and fighting the insurance companies for money. And she also does my scheduling and like booking for speaking engagements.
Great.
And I just hired a social media manager and a bookkeeper.
Okay.
Woo!
That's exciting.
I don't know what they're gonna do, but they are hired, so they are. So I don't know. I just answer their questions, and they're gonna tell me the rest. So I know what we've talked about in here before is, as I'm expanding past clinical and therapy stuff to offer groups, and my group is launching February 15th, February 17th, to offer groups and webinars and courses and that kind of content that I think we've talked about in here that I would need like an operations person, and they have not been hired because I don't know exactly how to separate that out, to whether would they just be focusing on promoting the courses and like doing that piece, or do I need separate people again in terms of like building a course and then knowing the tech side of webinars and stuff like that? Or do I need somebody who's going to be opening up the chats, the groups for me, and like doing all the back end work? Like, I just don't know if that needs to be maybe 5 separate people, or if I should be looking for one person who can do all of those things for like the passive income part, because only I can.
So I think, just to reframe your question, because I think this is such a great question, which is really when you have a project and you're in the process of launching a new product or a new project, how do you split up the work? And how do you know what work is going to be an ongoing set of work versus a work that is just to get to launch? Like, Jackie, how do you recommend that founders, entrepreneurs, owners think about that?
What you just said was a lot of different things.
It is.
So what I'm trying to understand is like your business. So you are a clinical psychologist, right? Is what you said. So you're a therapist, right? And so you have that business one-on-one, and then you have the groups that you're starting, and then you have like your brand. So that's, to me, that's 3 different businesses in one. It's 3 different parts of one business, but it's 3 different things and different sources of revenue. And then you also have this like workshops and like speaking engagements thing. It's kind of like that's like 3 main businesses. So that's the way I think about it. And then I'm thinking, where is there overlap and what's separate? And then you need to think about what is currently making you the most amount of revenue and how much energy are you putting into it, and who can you give some of that to so that they can run with it. And so that, I mean, I learned this from Morgan, like how can I outsource things so that I can focus on other things. So think about what you can outsource, group it together in a way that makes sense, and that is not going to cost you as much money. I don't think you need 5 different people to hire, but it sounds like you currently are employing 3 people. My question to you right now is like, how good is your EA, and can they be your ops person?
No. You're there. No.
Okay, because I was going to say, because your EA probably knows your business well, or she will, or they will.
She knows the clinical side of my business, not anything related to like courses, webinars, that stuff. So that's not going to be.
So it's an admin part of Eventbrite, ticket refunds. I mean, there's an admin part of managing your audience.
And that's what I'm wondering about. Yeah, that's what I'm wondering about. If she's able to do a good job for your current admin stuff, then why couldn't she do the admin operations part? Because the other stuff that you're talking about sounds like community management, potentially.
Okay, I can hear that. But so the reason that I wouldn't, one, because she's already stretched with what I have her doing now, and she's great at it. So I'm also going to be transitioning her out. But she can't take it on. I can't give her anything else. We already now.
Yeah. Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. And so it's really good that you know that, actually, right? Because one of the things Morgan and I have talked about is like not overloading people, even if they're really good, like not overloading them, because then their quality of work starts to go down. And then you might end up having someone leave, right? And they were your star player. That often happens. So definitely, like if you need to hire more people, hire more people. So what I would think about, going back to your question, I hope I'm answering it, is really sit down and think about what your business looks like, where revenue is coming from, and where you need the most help, and trying to create, if you need to hire more people, I would think about the people you've already hired and figure out how to best align them to what your needs are. And if you end up needing to hire someone else, go from there. But first you need to align who you already have on payroll. And if there's misalignment, then you need to let them go.
Okay.
But you already have 3 people on payroll. So make sure that you are using their strengths to get what you need to get done.
Okay. And this goes back to your org charts, right? So one of the exercises that we do in the program is that everybody makes their org chart for where they are today and their org chart for where their revenue goal is when they know the revenue goal next year, and they need to, what's the org chart that will get you to that revenue goal, right? And I think what you're saying makes a really good point, which is that you all might have people on your org chart that exists today who are good for today, but are not going to be the ones who are going to be good for your step change growth world. And so you can transition now or you can transition later, but at some point you will have to evaluate people based off of, are they going to be able to meet your business needs for where you're going? That's really what Jackie's saying. And if you already know someone is a B player or a C player right now, they're going to continue to be a B player and maybe get worse when you're bigger and you're faster and you're trying to do a lot of things and you don't have time to manage their mistakes. And the longer you wait, the more money you're losing. The opportunity cost of your momentum is significant. So that's really what Jackie's pushing you. She's being very nice about it. But that's really important. And similarly, would you be willing to pay slightly more to one person, but they could do 2 to 3 more things, right? So if you hired someone who was a little bit more expensive, but they could be your program coordinator, might be worth it.
Yeah. it. I'm so excited for you all. This is such a huge thing. It's a major accomplishment to be running your own businesses. I would say don't be afraid to hire people. Don't be afraid to fire people. Really think about who you are, what you need, the company you want to build, the culture you want to build, and the people who can help you do that. And you will make good decisions.
If you are enjoying the podcast so far, please like and subscribe. It's really important to me that more people get access to this information, this unfiltered point of view from an entrepreneur who's done it. And I hope that you're enjoying it. Go ahead and leave me 5 stars, and I'll see you next week.